everybody, and welcome back to Cooking with the Clevengers. I'm Ray, and today we were gonna do something a little bit bigger, a little bit more extravagant, but then E decided it was time to get sick. So we're gonna do some nice comfort food yet again. This is a meal that she loves and will hork down bowls of it. Today we are going to do pinto beans with purple fried potatoes and homemade cornbread. Alright, so what we need to do to start is, ideally what you will want to do is get a pound of just dried pinto beans. They are super affordable. They're like 99 cents to $2 for a pound of them. Ideally you want to soak them overnight. Of course, I didn't do that, so I'm going to soak them for 30 minutes with some warm water with a little bit of salt added to help soften them up. After that, we are going to toss them in the crock pot because I love my slow cooker. And the next thing you're gonna need after the beans is a half pound of bacon. Doesn't matter what kind of bacon, just bacon. You can have a half pound or a pound. I have thicker bacon, so I'm going with the half pound. All right, so as you can see, we have soaked these for about 45 minutes, and they've already taken up a lot of water. What we're gonna do, we're gonna strain those, and then we're gonna fill this bowl back up with water. What we're doing here is we're just making my life easier because I don't wanna be bouncing back and forth between the crock pot and the sink. So we take the beans, place them in the crock pot, spread them out. Then we are going to pour water over them until it's about 1 inch to 2 inches covering the beans. This probably isn't even enough water, so I'm still gonna have to bounce back and forth because I'm awesome. And then we're gonna add some more. Now it is important at this stage, do not salt, pepper, season these because you're adding bacon and bacon is already plenty salty on its own. So you wanna save that until after these have cooked. So here we go with the bacon. And I'm going to put this on high. What we're gonna do next is we're gonna put it on high for 4 to 5 hours, so we'll have it ready for dinner. If you're starting this in the morning, just put it on low and just let it cook all day. There's no really such thing as overcooking these beans because they're just gonna get more tender and more delicious as time goes on. All right, so now that we have the pinto beans cooking away in the crock pot, we're now gonna discuss cornbread. My husband cannot and will not eat this meal without cornbread. So what I have for you today is my tried and true recipe that is close to Nanny's. I'm not gonna say that it's anywhere near Nanny's, but it's close. We're within the same like mile radius of each other. First thing, there's no sugar in this cornbread because sugar in cornbread is cake. So that is something we all need to be aware of. I am doubling this recipe because as you can see, we have an enormous cast iron skillet. In this cast iron skillet is just 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil, and it is just kind of all around like that so that it spreads evenly. This is going to go directly into the oven while it's preheating to 450 degrees because we want this piping hot when we mix in the cornmeal. Again, I am doubling this recipe, so what we have here is 4 cups of corn flour. In this, I'm going to add 3 cups of buttermilk. Glug, glug. We have a 1/4 cup of oil, just vegetable oil, nothing fancy, nothing special, and 2 eggs. And on top of that, because we do not put sugar in cornbread, is 2 teaspoons of salt. Now we're just gonna mix this bad boy up. All right, so we have had this preheating in the oven for about 15 minutes. It is hot. Do not touch that. All right, so now we are going to take our cornbread mixture, and that's the sound you want to hear. That sound is creating a beautiful, beautiful crust. We're gonna put this in the oven for 25 minutes at 450 degrees.
All right, so we've got the cornbread in the oven. We've got the pinto beans in the crock pot. They are cooking away. It's smelling pretty good in this kitchen already. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm going to get the purple potatoes ready. Now this isn't as simple as just dicing up some potatoes and throwing them in a pan of hot oil, because we don't want these potatoes to burn on the outside before they get done on the inside. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my potatoes, I'm gonna cut them up into quarters, and then I'm going to boil them for about 8 to 10 minutes before we even think about frying. Now that we have our potatoes cut, we're going to soak them in salted water for about 5 minutes, just to bring some of that starch out of the potatoes before we boil them for 8 minutes. Okay, so now we're about to take the cornbread out of the oven. Now, I have watched my grandmother do this for years, my entire life, and I do not understand how she does it. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull this cornbread out. We have our mitts here. So we're going to take these. Because this iron skillet is extremely hot, and we're going to turn the cornbread out onto a plate that we have set aside. So we're going to give this a shot, see if we can get it done. Come with me. Whew.
Warm.
Nice little facial there. So we're going to take this and turn it out on a plate. Let's grab the plate, and we're going to see if this works. And voila. Whew. Cornbread. PSA. Kids, don't try this at home. Have your parents or maybe the world's strongest man try to do that for you. All right, so we've had our potatoes boiling for about 10 minutes. We're gonna go ahead and strain these off and try to get as much of that water out of these potatoes as we can. So they're gonna sit for a little bit, but let's strain them first. Now you gotta be careful, you got hot boiling water moving over to the sink, and then just into the strainer. So we're gonna let those sit for about 5 to 10 minutes before we finish them in the frying pan. So now our potatoes have been sitting for about 8 to 10 minutes. They've dried up a little bit, but they're nice, they're soft, they're tender, which is exactly what we want. So now we've got that same cast iron pan that we had our cornbread in, back on the eye on medium heat. And I've got one little potato in here as a tester to make sure that the oil is hot enough. So now it's just a matter of putting the potatoes in. Try to get an even layer on the bottom of that cast iron skillet. And now we're going to fry. All right, so our potatoes are almost done cooking. Now I'm gonna add one last thing. I've taken a bowl full out so Ellie can just have plain potatoes. But now I'm gonna drop a tablespoon of butter and about 1/4 of a can of Hatch green chilies. And then I'm gonna give that a few minutes to come together, stir them up, and warm those green chilies all the way through. All right, so it's all done. Now it's time to plate. But the favorite part of mine with this plating is the cutting of the cornbread for the first time. We're gonna hear that crust and we're going to take out a slice. Now, I don't know how many of you are like me, but I like to take the cornbread and put it directly into my pinto beans and really mix it up so that the cornbread soaks up a lot of that juice that the pinto beans has been cooking in. But you don't have to do that. Today, we're just gonna plate it traditionally. Pinto beans in a bowl, our potatoes and cornbread on the plate. Let's go ahead and cut this. Beautifully moist, but still dense enough to hold up to the pinto beans. Raised pinto beans, cornbread, and my fried purple potatoes, which really didn't turn out to be purple potatoes, so I think the grocery store kind of lied to me on that. I think they were just really, really dark red potatoes, but they tasted great anyway. We hope to see you next time. If you want to see some previous videos, click here. If you want to click here to like and subscribe, we'd appreciate that as well. Thanks for watching. Sorry you didn't get an Ellie's tip of the day. She is under the weather and kind of keeping her in her bedroom away from everybody. But we love you and we hope to see you next week. Bye, everybody.